Don your helmet of fate, grab your Amulet of Anubis, and prepare to embark on an epic journey into the mystical realms of the DC universe alongside one of its most iconic and enigmatic heroes. Let's learn more about the mysterious and arcane Dr. Fate. So, Dr. Fate, and we're going to stick to Kent Nelson today because it's pretty extensive. Dr. Fate has been represented by several different individuals, sometimes two at a time if you're into that sort of thing. Today, we are going to focus on his very first incarnation, and that is of Dr. Kent Nelson. For those of you who don't know, Dr. Fate is a legacy hero created by Nabu, one of the Lords of Order in the DC universe. Nabu is a cosmic entity, as I said, linked to the Lords of Order and the Mesopotamian deities, which Dr. Fate has also served other entities, but more recently, it's become more of an Egyptian. He is one of the founding and most respected members of the Justice Society of America, and is the absolute top tier of all the magical characters in DC Comics. So Dr. Fate is one of the most iconic and powerful characters in DC. He's known for his mastery of magic and his role as a protector of Earth against supernatural threats. As the chosen vessel for the ancient entity and sorcerer Nabu, Dr. Fate wields an absolutely immense amount of magical power and serves as this very, very powerful force of good in the ongoing battle against evil. The significance of Dr. Fate in the DC universe cannot be overstated. As a member of the JSA, Dr. Fate has been a key player in some of the most important events in DC Comics. Dr. Fate's connection to the mystical realms and his deep understanding of the arcane arts make him an essential and unique addition to the DC Comics pantheon. His presence adds this mystical and supernatural element to their larger superhero landscape, enriching the storytelling possibilities and expanding the scope of the DC universe. Dr. Fate is so powerful, you just don't even understand how powerful he is. His telekinesis is so strong that he's moved an entire planet into a sun. Into a sun? Into a sun. If he wanted to, he could render Superman completely immune to magic, if he wanted to. He can move faster than any character in the entire DC universe. I mean that. He's faster than the Flash. He's faster than Superman. His helmet alone, the helmet of Nabu, has once moved across the entire universe in just like a matter of minutes. It's crazy, right? He can alter reality in any shape he wants to. He can traverse the multiverse whenever he wants to. And he does all of this with just a thought. He doesn't even have to necessarily cast spells like Constantine or Zatanna. He is, in all intents and purposes, a virtual god in DC Comics. Throughout the years, Fate has been featured in numerous comic book series, graphic novels, and crossover events, cementing his status as one of DC's most enduring and beloved characters. His iconic costume, featuring his golden helmet of Nabu, his cape of destiny, and of course the Amulet of Anubis and his nice bright blue uni, have become instantly recognizable by fans all over the world. Dr. Fate occupies this very special place in DC Comics, embodying the timeless struggle between light and darkness, and serving as a symbol of hope in the face of adversity. His adventures continue to captivate readers and inspire audiences, all over the world. His battles always include this wide array of mystical villains with supernatural threats, including ancient gods, demons, and dark sorcerers. Ooh. He also becomes, like I said, a founding member of the Justice Society of America, the first superhero team in all of comics, who included the likes of Superman and Wonder Woman, and together they combated threats too great for any one of them to handle alone. The origins of Dr. Fate are steeped in mythology and mysticism and the magic of the DC Comics universe. Kent Nelson's transformation into Fate represents a classic hero's journey as he embraces his destiny and rises to the challenge of defending the world from the forces of darkness. These stories are just absolutely rooted in ancient mysticism and adventure, with Kent Nelson's journey from archaeologist to superhero serving as the foundation for one of DC Comics' most iconic and enduring characters. The origins of Dr. Fate trace back to the golden age of comics, with the character first appearing in More Fun Comics number 55 in 1940. After a year with no background, no origin, no name to his alter ego, his origins were finally explained in More Fun Comics 67 in 1941. He had a love interest by the name of Inza, sometimes Sanders, sometimes Karmer, but eventually it was amended to Inza Kramer in the Silver Age. More Fun Comics were an anthology of various comic stories, and it makes absolute total sense that the headliner, the first character you read about in these specific comic books, were the Spectre being the spirit of God's wrath. Dr. Fate was created by sometimes Batman writer Gardner Fox and artist Howard Sherman. On the subject of creating Dr. Fate, Gardner Fox said that he originally called him Dr. Droon. We don't know why. He said that the name was changed in editorial. Thank you for whoever did that, because Dr. Droon does not make any Droon sense. And it's Droon. So I have no idea where he got this. I really don't. He goes on to say that Dr. Fate was absolutely one of his favorite characters. He created him and even sketched out the original costume he would wear, but that costume was changed by artists over the years for one reason or another. To his knowledge, he wrote all the Dr. Fate yarns that appeared up until 1968, when he left comic book writing to a greater degree. And he said he always was drawn to the supernatural. It was always fun for him. He read H.P. Lovecraft, Derleth, Sax Rohmer, Howard, Clark Ashton Smith, Whitehead. Fate was derived from his imagination and influenced by all of those writings. Making his debut as Kent Nelson, a young archaeologist who stumbles upon the ancient tomb of Egyptian sorcerer Nabu while on an expedition to Egypt with his father Sven, Kent finds a man in ancient garments who's entombed for at least a millennia. Looks like he was just buried. Kent realizes that the man in the tomb is somehow communicating with him telepathically and wants Ken to pull this lever. Hey, kid, pull my lever. And it's great, right? And of course, just like any time an old man tells you to pull his lever, a bunch of gas exits. Kent hears a big hiss and a white cloud of gas comes out. The man in the tomb awakens and steps forth, and he explains that he was actually not dead, but had discovered a way to control his molecular structure. He also explains that his age is actually closer to 1,000,000 years. Now, in the Golden Age version, Nabu, who this is, explains that he was born on a planet called Cilia that orbited somewhere near Earth. It's never really made all that clear. And when Kent had entered his tomb, Nabu had scanned him and deemed him worthy. Kent is just super stoked at his discovery, and he immediately wants to go and tell his dad, because, his dad is an archaeologist. He's here because of him. And so he goes running into the other chamber, like, Dad, look, I found this old guy, and he says his name is Nabu, and he's 500,000 years old. But when he gets in there, he notices that his father is laying on the floor unconscious. Kent attempts to awaken him only to discover that in fact he will not, because as Naboo explains, his father is dead. How is he dead? Well, when he had him pull that lever and he farted that big white cloud of gas, it was actually poisonous, and it was released on purpose to kill anyone who attempted to enter that tomb who was not worthy. Naboo helps him bury his father in the desert, and as Kent is kneeling by his father's desert grave, sobbing, Naboo's like, hey kid, I'm real sorry about that. In exchange for, killing your dad and stuff, I'll teach you magic. How about that? And Kent's like, are you for real right now? Like, I just want my dad. But despite his absolute sorrow, he does take Naboo up on his super generous offer and actually trains with him for about 20 years. And he learns things like how to levitate, telekinesis, telepathy. Normal stuff, easy things. Naboo actually becomes a surrogate father to Kent all of these years. Despite the fact that his poisoned fart that was meant to get grave robbers killed the kid's actual father, Kent becomes very attached to him, and he learns a lot. Naboo is eventually satisfied with Kent's progress in his mystical and magical training, and he bestows upon him 3 artifacts. He gives him his garments, the blue uni, and he also gives him the Cloak of Destiny, the Amulet of Anubis, and of course the golden helm of Naboo. The helm actually contains Naboo's essence, his actual spirit, and not only that, but like an entire universe inside of it. The helmet fits an entire universe. So it's not like Naboo was just gone after all of this. No. Naboo remained with him inside the helmet, which later would cause some serious issues. But for the time being, it was pretty dope because under Naboo's guidance, Kent learns how to really harness the mystical energies of said helmet and become the superhero known as Dr. Fate, whom, Naboo coins for him. As Kent uses his newfound abilities to fight crime and protect the innocent, adopting the striking costume Naboo gave him, the helmet actually covers his entire head. So it's probably one of the best superhero costumes there is because he doesn't have to put on an awkward pair of glasses and act like a nincompoop to cover up his secret identity. No, this helmet covers his whole head. So he's able to continue to live his life as Kent Nelson and eventually marries Enza. Enza, who then is completely aware of his double life as Dr. Fate and actually works with him as kind of a sidekick in a way, sometimes more than a sidekick, an actual equal partner. And at one point, they actually merge and share the role as Dr. Fate, resulting in depictions of Dr. Fate with boobs. Now, I know what you're asking. His name is Dr. Fate. Is he a doctor? Why, yes, he is. There was a time when Kent Nelson actually went and joined the army, and then he decided, I'm going to become a doctor and help people and help the army in that way. And he does. He becomes a doctor. Another time he goes back and he becomes an archaeologist like his father, and he was a doctor of that as well. So yes, he earns the moniker Dr. Fate. And I know what else you're thinking. Oh, a magic wielding character in comic books that wears a fancy flashy cape and goes by the name of Doctor something. Sounds like Doctor Strange. But Dr. Fate came first. That's right. Now, as I told you, Naboo was known as one of the Lords of Order, and these were a bunch of beings that were cosmic beings. They were cosmic entities. First, Naboo was this alien from the planet Cilia, but then they decided that's just silly, yeah? Mom jokes. And they made him a Lord of Order. The Lords of Order were created by DC God at the same time as the Lords of Chaos. And these two groups of entities were purposely created to constantly battle for all time, creating chaos and then order and then back again, establishing an eternal balance, so to speak. So it's not a battle that can ever be truly won, Just a battle that can be won every day. These beings weren't really known to be very emotional or understand human emotion or care. They didn't really care about human emotion. In fact, because of this, whenever Kent wore the helm of Naboo and he kind of took on more of that Naboo flavor, he really didn't have human emotion. These entities were kind of like the bureaucrats of the universe, and it really caused Kent a lot of problems. There were several times when Kent lost his grasp over his mental faculties because of Naboo's grasp over him. In fact, it affected Inza so strongly, everything that they had been through, that she ends up taking her own life. Because of the extreme mystical reality altering properties that the powers of Naboo possess, the helm was actually able to extend Kent and Inza's life extraordinarily. All of this became too much for poor Inza, so she did end her own life. And of course, this drove Kent insane with heartache and loneliness. He begged Naboo to let him go and let him die and be with his beloved Inza. Naboo wouldn't allow it. Well, at least not until Kent found Naboo a suitable replacement for his avatar. And in case you haven't noticed, I almost said Doctor Strange. Dr. Fate is kind of like this mashup of Marvel's Moon Knight and Doctor Strange. Kent eventually does find Naboo a replacement for him, and it's a boy named Eric and his stepmother, Linda. Come to find out that being the avatar for Naboo and using these great mystical artifacts like the helm, the cape, and the amulet is absolutely too much for one human being to bear on their own. Therefore, they needed two people. So this Eric Strauss and his stepmother, Linda, take on the mantle for a time being. And Kent is allowed to die and join Inza. In fact, Naboo decides to be a super nice guy, and he puts the souls of Inza and Kent into the Amulet of Anubis, and they live in this beautiful, perfect fantasy world and live out normal, happy lives. It's kind of nice. That Amulet of Anubis actually acts as kind of a mystical prison, much like the helm. It houses an entire universe. But it wasn't the last we would see of Kent Nelson and Inza. They get brought back a couple of different times. Now, I know what you're wondering, but Danny, where does Dr. Fate live? So glad you asked, because they're actually quite specific in the comic books about where Dr. Fate and Inza live. They live in a mystical, enchanted tower in Salem, Massachusetts. Makes sense, right? No one can see this tower unless Dr. Fate allows them to. That's handy. Dr. Fate has teamed up with some of the most powerful characters in the DC universe. Of course, he was a founding member of the Justice Society of America. He was Justice League, the Justice League Unlimited for my animation fans out there. He's worked alongside characters like the Stranger, who's Judas Iscariot. For those who don't know, he's a pretty dope character. He's also worked with alongside the Spectre, the spirit of God's wrath. In fact, the Spectre has gone on record to say that at full capacity, Dr. Fate could probably beat him. True story. Dr. Fate is great because he's who everyone in the DC universe goes to as a last resort. Like, if they can't resolve a certain situation, Dr. Fate. And it's not like it's super easy to get a hold of him. You basically can't contact Dr. Fate unless Dr. Fate wants you to. And then he's like, I've been expecting you. How are you? Probably not like that, but you know what I mean. He has taken such characters under his wing and tutored them in the mystical arts, such as Zatanna, John Constantine, Madame Xanadu, even Hawkgirl. Other incarnations of Dr. Fate include, of course, Eric and Linda Strauss, the stepmother, stepson team I mentioned earlier, which kind of weird, right? Am I the only one who's like, I do not want to mind and body meld with my step parent? But then Kent and Ninza come back, they take it back over. In the Silver Age of Comics, Hector Hall, the child of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, he took over as Dr. Fate for a brief period. And then in more recent years, you had Kent V. Nelson, who was a descendant of the original Kent Nelson. He's like his grandnephew. He took over as Dr. Fate. Right now, the Dr. Fate that's in DC Comics, I believe, is an Egyptian boy by the name of Khalid, which makes sense if you think about it. I mean, he is this ancient Mesopotamian / Egyptian based character, so it makes sense that eventually it would be an Egyptian man who takes on the mantle. There was a brief period where a guy took over and he just went by Fate. He had actually tried to use the Amulet of Anubis against a demon, and the Amulet of Anubis actually exploded and it left a permanent imprint / tattoo of an ankh on his face, and he tore up the cloak of destiny and used it to heal his arm, and then he melted down the helmet of Nabu and made throwing stars and a machete. He just went by the name Fate, and honestly wasn't a huge fan of that incarnation. It felt more Snake Plissken to me than it did Master of the Mystical Energies and Arts. I am a big fan of Dr. Fate. I've said this a few separate times, but I love how DC Comics does the magical and the mystical. With Marvel, there's always some kind of crazy scientific cosmic solution or reason for the magical happening. But in DC, magic is still magic. Yes, the Lords of Order are these cosmic entities, but they were created by DC's depiction of God. There is no real science behind what they're doing, or rather science we don't quite understand. DC, in my opinion, seems to do that mystical, spiritual, magical stuff just so much better for me because they keep it mystical. I love the supernatural element in my comic characters. So characters like Dr. Fate are right up my alley. He's a character that's steeped in magic, mysticism, supernatural. Dr. Fate has played this pivotal role in shaping that magical, mystical landscape in the DC universe. You can't have it without Dr. Fate. He's introduced readers to this vast array of supernatural realms, cosmic entities, and otherworldly phenomena. His adventures have expanded the boundaries of the DC Comics mythos, pushing the boundaries of imagination and exploring the hidden depths of the mystical realm. I absolutely challenge and encourage you nerdlings to explore more about Dr. Fate and his adventures in the comics. It's an invitation to embark on a journey through this mystic realm of the DC universe where magic, mystery, and heroism all collide in these epic tales of cosmic significance. Exploring more about Dr. Fate and his adventures in the comics offers readers an opportunity to immerse themselves in a world of magic, mystery, and heroism unlike any other. Whether you're a longtime fan or a newcomer to the character, delving into Dr. Fate's rich history and mythology is sure to be a rewarding and unforgettable experience that will leave you absolutely positively spellbound and eager for more. So as always, nerds, if you want the full story, this is your invitation. Go read the comics. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, nerds. If you like the content I'm putting out there, please do me a solid and make that sacrifice to the lords of YouTube and smash that like button. If you're new, I really hope you subscribe and make sure you have that bell clicked so you get notifications whenever I'm back with more nerdy goodness. I've been your host, Danny Sanssouci. You've been awesome. I hope you have a wicked and weird week, and I will see you in the next one. But make sure to check under your beds tonight because
Disney and Kathleen Kennedy are gonna get you!